Right, this is a book review for Desert Gold by Zane Grey. This was published in 1913. It's a Western. Um, I enjoyed Riders of the Purple Sage so much that I thought, hey, I'll read another Zane Grey Western. And this one was pretty good too. So, the plot of this one is you got this guy named Richard Gale. He goes by Dick, who has come out west basically to prove that he's a man, to prove to himself and to his father that he's a man. So he ends up in Arizona in this little town. Maybe I'll read some of the dialogue or some of the setup for you here. So it says Richard Gale reflected that his sojourn in the West had been what his disgusted father had predicted, idling here and dreaming there with no objective point or purpose. It was reflection such as this, only more serious and perhaps somewhat desperate, that had brought Gale down to the border. For some time the newspapers had been printing news of Mexican Revolution, guerrilla warfare, United States cavalry patrolling the international line, American cowboys fighting with the rebels, and wild stories of bold raiders and bandits. Regarding these rumors, Gale was skeptical, but as opportunity and adventure too had apparently given him a wide berth in Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, he had struck southwest for the Arizona border, where he hoped to see some stirring life. So, this is the setup. This is what we're getting into. This is the stuff that's going on the Arizona border. You've got the Mexican Revolution taking place, so we're talking probably around 1910, 12, or 13, considering when this book is written. This was happening right around then. So he ends up in this town called Casita, where he meets this guy, an old friend, who is named George Thorne. Now, George Thorne is in love with a aristocrat. She's from old Spanish family heritage, and her name is Mercedes Castaneda. The problem is the antagonist. There is a bandit from Mexico named Rojas, and he's in love with her, or he desires her for himself. So you have all this tension set up between them. And then we get a few more characters introduced that help out Dick and his friend Thorne. These are Jim Lash and Charlie Ladd, who are both a couple of cowboys. And they help these guys out. And Jim Thorne George Thorne kind of goes on his way, and then Dick takes Mercedes, and they end up on this ranch owned by Tom Belding, who happens to work for the government, and his stepdaughter Nell is there. And it's very apparent very quickly that our principal character, Dick Gale, and Nell are going to be romantically involved. I mean, it's just, sparks fly and everything. But these gentlemen here, Jim Lash, Charlie Ladd, and Richard Gale, they end up becoming Rangers, or Arizona Rangers. Of course, we've got the whole thing with Mercedes being on the ranch, and they're trying to hide her, and then this Rojas and his outlaws band of rebels are looking for her. There you go. That's the whole setup. Now, that's just the beginning of the book. That's probably the first 50 pages or so, and I didn't really give you a lot of detail. And the book goes on for quite a while. It's a 300 and, 26 pages. It was, an action-adventure Western. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to it. It's kind of formulaic, but considering that Zane Grey pretty much invented the Western as we know it, I enjoyed it. Now, one thing I will warn you about, there are a lot of racial epithets in this one. I mean, so if that kind of thing is really going to put you off, maybe skip this one, because, I mean, you thought that the Riders of the Purple Sage and the way that it talked about Mormons. I mean, we got some pretty racially charged language concerning Chinese, Japanese, and Mexicans all throughout this book. So, that's just a warning to you. 1913 was a different time. That's all I'm going to say. All right, so I'd give this one, I didn't enjoy this quite as much as Riders of the Purple Sage. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Let me round it up. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I don't think that it's quite deserving of I think it's better than a 3, but not quite good enough to be a 4. I did enjoy it. I finished it in a couple of days. So, pretty good book. Zane Grey. I mean, he hasn't disappointed yet. I've only read 2, but I really enjoy the way that he writes. Pretty gripping. All right. Thanks for watching. God bless. Have a wonderful day.